Buenas tardes, ¿me oís bien?
Si te separas un poco del micrófono mejor.
¿Me separo más así? ¿Así?
No, lo más que podemos. Porque se viene comido.
Sabéis que esta mesa redonda será en inglés. Vamos a intentar hacerlo de una manera, si no entendéis, yo puedo traducir. No es mi trabajo, pero intentaré, si veo caras raras, intentaremos hacerlo. Thank you very much to be in this afternoon with these people, with the artists. Later, we'll present each one by one. I would like to present this table. The name is Connecting with Máquina Mística, with mystical machine. And this round table will have the artists that will participate, and we will be able to learn more about their pieces and their creation processes. As well, later we can share with you, or you can share with us, your questions about what we are going to talk between us, each one, and then between us. So we would like to know about their rituals and their beliefs, their ethics in work, aesthetical processes, and everything spiritual that surround their pieces. I would like to begin with a French philosopher, Bernard Stiegler. He mentioned that we are living in a timeless age. It's a time without time, in which time still flows, but it's not a pure age that will leave a legacy, an errors. Instead, it's an era that humans have named in reference to themselves, as we know, and the human activities that we have making in surface of this planet. This is Anthropocene, Anthropoceno. And this overlap each other in a synchronous recursion. This not only means that humans dominate bioecology on Earth, but also directly affect the Earth geological time scale. Within this relatively complex content, I would like to name, because then we are talking about phylogenetics with these two artists, but I would like to mention epiphylogenetic ecosystems. This came from Bernard Stiegler's work. What is ¿Qué es epilogenética? It's a cocoon in which humans overcome their genetic heritage and develop new ways of being through technological innovation. Here, the industrialization memories has biased linear thinking and has caused that humanity abandon existing perception of time. Humanity imaginary system and nervous system are expanding due to the communication industry. New systems are built in the world through the use of structured derived from technologies, as they live in an era where the analog, digital, and biological merge. En otras palabras, in other words, humanity bodily and perceptual intentionally is being transformed because technology is no longer just an independent entity. In addition, a kind of paradox arises about how people should use their bodies to feel and how a kind of meaning can be constructed in this human-technology relationship compared to the aesthetical spiritual relation of art in ancient times. This is a presentation because we are talking about the spiritual or the mystical inner life of machines and how they interact with the artist's works. And talking about epiphylogenetic is important because we are touching the first work of art made by the Golnas Beronsnia and Dominique Payson. Dominique is from France, and Golnas is from Iran and France too. Maybe you already saw their installation, Reverse Phylogenetics, filogenética a la inversa, This refers to the development of evolution of the species, the phylogenetic. And epiphylogenetic, we talked already, to what human being is beginning to be because of the interaction with the machines. And here also we can put in the middle what is transhumanism and how it combines with phylogenetics. Golnas, artist, she's a transmedia artist, and Dominique is also not only an artist but a scientist from France. Reverse Phylogenetic is an art and science multimedia installation in which these two artists explore the concept of reverse phylogenetics, as I told first, and it's an imaginary and poetical process of rejuvenation of the species over time, allowing them to explore a varied, strange and extravagant forms with extreme freedom. In this transmedia and literary work, artists and scientists propose a scenographic tool which revel of their works, from which they can create a logic between fiction and natural science. Can we begin to talk, both any of you, about this installation, which is maybe something that we will going to see? It's like a alchemist laboratory, but a future laboratory where not only scientists' parts are working or technological parts, but also all this world of fantasy, because fantasy in this art, in new media art and imagination, is one of the clues to understand what is going to happen with the art. Art, as we know itself, already finished an era. Now, new media art, arte, los nuevos medios tecnológicos, it's beginning a new era because artists are not repeating past arts. We already are accustomed to art as something that's as sequences. Artists looking what other artists have done in the past and trying to do it best or different. With this new media art, artists are creating new words. Maybe it's not comprehensible for all of us, but the only thing we must understand is what we see, our seeing. We must begin to learn how we see these works of art. And then we can understand their knowledge, what they want to say to us. But if we are not able to focus on the work, how we have to learn a new scene, we never will enter into this new work of art. We know we will not understand them because the function is not only an aesthetical function. This is more comprehension of yourselves, of ourselves, of human beings selves. So this is an introduction, and I will let the artists to talk about their work because they have the knowledge about it. Reverse phylogenetics, transhumanism laboratoire, laboratory of alchemist laboratory. You're okay with this definition?
Alchemist laboratory?
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Can be one, yeah.
So, what is the first thing when any of the audience, prepared or not, artists or not, small, bigger, older, what they will find, and which is the approach they will have in their mind, eyes, to really enjoy your installation and then understand it. So if you can give clues for them and clues about the work and how you began working with this installation, so say lyrically, poetically, so complex, so this topic sometimes, this metaphor of the past but coming into the future. So I will appreciate it. Any of you?
If you want.
The past and the future are mixed because it's a reverse phylogenetic. That means that some spaces, we imagine, in fact, it's totally fictive, but we imagine that some species, after a while, decided not to continue to evaluate like the other species, but to desevaluate, which means that to come back to earlier stages so that they are allowed to have much more different forms of life. Because at the beginning of the world of life, there was a very big development of lots and lots of extraordinary forms of life because they were experimenting life, in fact. And then after, lots disappeared because there was selection, natural selection. And all the one that we see now are the ones that have been selected. So they are the most robust, or the most intelligent, or the most warrior. But the idea is to imagine that we can come back to forms that maybe are not the best ones, not the more intelligent, or not the more efficient, but they explore lots of different ways of living together, communicate, different sexualities, spiritualities for some of them, so lots of diversity, in fact.
We create this installation to as a parallel system to permit to give a new vision of a real system, life system, because maybe humanity forgot the magic thing of emergence of the life and its relationship between its society and nature. So to create another system which can echo with the real system, we want to create new visions with it. And also the installation we propose, it's mixed with artifacts and machines and artificial systems. So it's the way to question our contemporary period and our actual environment. What's the nature today in the earth, and what's the biological entities today. So we have so many hybrid and mixed entities in our phylogenetic process, with which maybe we can ask this question: what's the living and what's what's this tension between living beings and our artificial artifacts, because as technical animals, we have emitted so many artifacts in natural mediums, environments, and we really transformed it. So what's the way to reconvene again the relation between our artifacts and the natural beings, as geosphere and biosphere parts of the planet? Yeah.
Great.
Also,
Yes.
just a point. I really think that nowadays in the laboratories in biology, people more and more can control the matter of life, not only life beings, but also how to use some part of the life to do some actions, for example. And we are going to have later not only the machine that we have at the moment with very hard pieces of metal and electronics, but I think it's going to be some organic machines. The machines that we will have, and it already exists in fact, will be not hard machines, or maybe there will be some, but there will be also some organic machines that will be inspired by the living ways of doing things, because it's really efficient, and it already exists in fact, but because some systems, for example, are already made so that you can ingest and that evaluate in your body, and which use reaction or way of treating cells and so on, that can have machine action in our body. So in the system that we have imaging, there is also this mixed between what already exists and what could exist, knowing all the existing way of living.
Talking about organic machines, máquinas orgánicas, and talking about this round table title, do you think these organic machines will have a spiritual life too?
So, well, if it's machines means that it's not thinking, and it's also a question what is living in fact. So if it's machine, it's not living, so it will not have spiritual any way of thinking. But if we say that maybe one day we will be able to come back to how life began, for example, because lots of laboratories are working about that. In our exhibition, we come back with reverse phylogenesis to the origin of life. And the fact is that if we can come back to understand how life began in the world, maybe we will be able to make other forms of life. This organic machine, maybe there will be after living machines. And if there are living machines, why not? Yes, we can imagine that we can grow some neurons and to have a way of thinking, and so maybe spirituality later on. And I don't know. It's not impossible, of course.
But now, machines in some part work with artificial intelligence. But there is not such thing as an artificial intelligence. This is only sand and cells. There's not really intelligence as our intelligence. So maybe we are talking when our DNA will interact with the machines, and this is not an utopia because they are already working. Maybe machines will become always, as we, as God creators, an autonomous being, spiritual or not spiritual, or maybe with an own spirituality, different from our mystical view of their life. So it's interesting because this is development, everything, and you, in some way, your installation is an example of what can be in the future in a biggest and enormous way of seeing what we are looking in a more smaller laboratory. What really will be this interaction, how we will see life, creating life, and maybe we will remember how we were created.
Yeah, I think we, the installation want to create a link with our unconsciousness of the living and all of this phylogenesis system we take part. So I think it's not really about future or past. It's as no time moment to question the enigma of life, you know.
Yes.
And also there is a morphogenetic laws in our universe. It's morphogenetic laws for biologic systems, for physiochemical systems, and artificial forms we create. These laws are not the same, and how maybe human can think differently, the way of emit these forms, because as say Jacques Monod, for the living beings, morphogenetic laws is really in link with the functional systems of biology, but for artifacts it's in link with intention of human. So how we can think about our intentions, I don't know, how we can propose and imagine our machines that they can have another link and place in the nature and spirituality also.
Okay, that's why I read about Bernard Stiegler, The Timeless Age. So you touch it. Okay. Later we will begin and talk about all these uses we are touching now. Second artist, or third, I know. It's Philippe Vilas-Boas, or Vilas-Boas.
Vilas-Boas.
Vilas-Boas. He's an artist from Portugal, but living in France.
Vilas-Boas, donc.
Vilas-Boas. Merci. He presents, this is going to be difficult because he presents, very easy, 6 installations. Maybe you already saw it. And I will like this part with him, talk about aesthetics, the aesthetics of the machine vision. I will remember his works. Mixed Feelings is the first. It's an interactive video installation that draws inspiration from the emotion of our faces, not very identical, and compose and improvise music in real time. The second, it's not the second because this is not in a sequence way. The next one is Carrying the Cross. It's an installation performance in which the Portuguese artist, Philippe, and the public carry a giant sculptural F. Have you seen it? It's like face, made of wood and nails, through the streets, ready for crucifixion, and mark the high point of the performance. The third one is the notification bell, a sacred instrument of the attention economy. This is an installation. This project examines the similarities of religions' borrowings of a digital technology from the bell and the role of sounds, of the sound of sounds in this our contemporary applications. The fourth installation is My Timeline is on Fire. Is a social media video collage of Notre Dame de Paris, which burned 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years. and explores this ambivalent relationship between our contemporary need to share dramatic events on social media and the ancient practice of ritual fire. The fifth, is the punishment. Castigo is a robotic installation in which a robot executes a preventive punishment for its possible future disobedience. And this is clearly a reference to Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics. You must not kill humans, one of them. And it's not like that, but I changed. And the last one is RIP, rest in privacy. This is installation, this from mass surveillance to online services that we pay for with our personal data. We have to face the facts. We are hopelessly recorded, tracked, categorized, and analyzed from both online and offline. So, machine mystical or spiritual vision refers to advances technology which have been developed to carry out operation of automatization in areas of inspection and observation in wider society. In referring to machine, in brackets, we include not only the software which underlines contemporary algorithmical systems, but also references the hardware and wider concurrent material relation, which constitute this operation. The question is this, or if you are not to answer, you can talk about the installations.
Can I start now?
How are artists exploring the phenomenon of machine vision or spiritual mystical vision and the aesthetics of the nodes of perception?
Actually, I guess we could now open a new door on this Máquina Mística title, because of course we, as humans, we tend to maybe spiritualize, of course, our life. It's a need, I guess, like food. Yeah, it's a function we have in our mind, I would say. It can be like associated to a specific religion or not. You can be very spiritual without being associated with a specific mysticism or mythology. And from that point of view, machines to me and algorithms, they are just cognitive functions that we manage more or less to externalize from our bodies. And yeah, of course, we still have a lot to discover about the world and biology and science. Science did a great job those last centuries, so we tend to know better all life's forms and transforms. How we did a big mess also those last centuries. And to me, it's important, like, to put that on the side and look also at this Máquina Mística from another point of view, which would be an ironic point of view. Machines are man-made. They are children. There are functions we create, we design for us. So putting a mystical will or an invisible will in machines is like it's not serious. We must look at the fact that we are currently living in a world hyper technicized, and this hyper technology is sold to us as probably the main solution to everything. A few years ago, Brown was responding to every problem by there's an app for that, and this way to present things as techniques and technology as the solution for everything is really the time we are living in. It gets more and more technicized, it gets more and more complicated, and it puts more and more people on the side. Well, to me. So that's why in a body of work, I try to look at technology as not as a strange potential autonomous being, but as a mask, because actually we're talking about artificial intelligence, and I do use artificial intelligence in mixed feelings as an example, but I train a neural network to play piano according to emotions the computer tries to see on us. But I know that artificial intelligence is mainly used as an argument, as a communication argument, and as an example, it's not that good as it presented, because sometimes, like, let's take the example of moderation online in platforms. They're all claiming artificial intelligence tools to moderate content online. Actually, most of the content online is moderated by people in the South and like by, we could say, slaves, modern slaves. And so the fact that we, on one side, that mainly the main storytelling is, yeah, congratulations guys, we're living in the most advanced society ever created. And on the other side, we are going like 4 centuries ago, politically, socially speaking. It strikes me that, well, it can be that that easy for them. So my in this body of work, which was once like gathered in a, I have to mention that in a solo show in Lisbon at Zaratan Gallery, and the cross was the inauguration of this solo show, because I really wanted to put that on the street, to involve people's body in those issues, and the fact of involving the body, taking those questions to the street, for me is super important, because I do look at those spaces as a second public space, even its private enclosures. I always look at it with like if it were public spaces, and it's important to me because we should manage them as that. We should be able to decide what's on the street here outside, and what we can put also in the digital street online. To me, it's the same way we should create some kind of collective governance. We managed to do it for the street, so we could one day, I guess, manage to do it for digital services and products. You know.
I know you are interested in very much in socio-political structures and how they interact with machines or with art. So how you can relate all these 6 installations and to this theme or subject, no, of the social political structures that disrupt, execute our values, and how machines not only interact but always are really trying to take advantage not because they can do it, that other humans use machines to take advantage of other humans beings, no? With data, with their knowledge, to kill, to rob, to anything. So how these 6 installations of art can enlighten this relation between the spiritual part of the machine, not the bad part of the machine, and the audience, how the audience can see this work of art as something that will renew in some way our perception of this reality between machines, bad uses of the machines, no? And transform the image of the machine in something not human, but something more organic, as Dominique talked before.
Yeah, two points on that, on the cross and then on mixed feelings. I think the cross is like a sum up of what was my intent in that specific solo show, which was like gathering projects that talks about the collective, the interconnection utopia of the web, which basically underlines what biology tells us for decades, like electrifying our interconnections and connecting us to other beings, not again non-humans, but and yes, so connecting us with this interconnection utopia. The web is really realizing it today, and we are in a time like of tech backlash, talking about a lot about privacy, about, of course, socio-economical structures, but basically it really underlines the fact that we are interconnected, and it's a chance. I mean, I do feel, I really feel like I'm still studying philosophy, sociology, poetry through this window, and it's really a superpower that maybe younger generation don't perfectly realize that, but older generation that lived before that excess can realize that. So from that excess to those excesses, and it took like 30 years to start with the very powerful values of sharing things, of being together, to in fact repeat what we have done like in the last centuries. And Spanish and Portuguese people know it perfectly, because we have been at the center of the world in those last centuries. World have been, and language have been totally Latinized, and that's also we are part of this great globalization. And this globalization that the web realized today, in fact, was started by this European will to Christianize world and to dominate economically this world. And I think we are still in that movement. We are really perfectly in that movement. And the pyramid, this supremacy, this will, which is really now, how do we say? Yeah, which is reinforced, in fact, by those new tools, by those machines, by those algorithms, are need to be like pointed out, because otherwise we cannot understand where we are. If we don't point out what is the system we're living in, I mean, we don't have any way to, we can't understand what the way we should take. And on mixed feelings, quickly, to me it was at first an intent to divert facial recognition facial recognition is mainly a police tool, and I thought that this use of facial recognition was like probably not a thing to develop, and some policies around the world are rejecting it as a tool, like in San Francisco, but most of them are using it. I just thought that if we look at our faces, which in fact our first interface before screens, our first interface are our faces, and we learn how to act, we learn how to behave socially, like being generally neutral. Maybe not in Spain. Yes, you guys are more generous with that, but I thought that the fact of using computer vision to look at us will be a nice way to replace this technology around us, not as a slave, because we are always doing that, putting technology as a slave. And there's a French philosopher, to cite another one, Gilbert Simondon, that thinks that if we start at placing the technology around us as a slave, we'll become the slave at the end. We'll become the slave of the system we are putting up. And I do believe he's perfectly right. And he wrote that he rewrote an introduction of his last book in the 80s, and we are now 40 years later, and we're right at that time. And so Mixed Feelings was this attempt to divert, let's say, a dark technology into something else, to develop like an artificial empathy. And actually this attempt made me think that I shouldn't use machines to look inside myself, to try to analyze in which state I am. We should be raised as humans that know how in which state we are emotionally. And from this point of view, we guys are really bad teach at this. We are teachers as hombres that have to work and only work and not take care of children and not being sensitive. And finally, my starting point was totally technical, and trying to focus on another place that technology could take. And by developing the project, in fact, I landed in a total different territory, which is like, how am I connected to my emotions? Was I taught to do so? I mean, it's really a deep question.
It's interesting, the point. Thank you, Philip. Later, if we have time, because time is passing very fast, we will talk about machine slaves and how we humans are escaping from this idea of that doesn't want to be slave of anything, and we get it. From work, we use machines now not to be so slave of the work. So now we have more time for us. Not all around the world, but in some parts we are really have this prize for us. And in the next centuries, we will become more and more autonomous in that way when machines become also autonomous from us. But later we'll go to this very important, interesting organic machines, machine slaves, that will replace maybe this spiritual, mystical part that we humans are forgetting or leaving apart, because we think that the machine will give us this spiritual part that we are losing. So this is like a very schizophrenic way of looking at machines. but also because this is a way of looking from artists. So also then later, when began the question, how people that are not so inside art have this reflection of machines. And I want to present our fourth artist, Félix Luque Sánchez, español, pero vive in Bélgica. He lives in Belgium, or maybe in Spain and Belgium. And I will want to subject this intervention with him like playing with light and geometry. He already, maybe you saw, he has two installations. You can see both how in the way you want it. Will begin with chapter 1, the discovery. This is a video installation. You can see down near the cafeteria. This video installation consists of a sculpture that represents not identified object in the shape of a regular dodecaderm, and videos that recreate the moment of this discovery. The work questions the viewer perception of the veracity of what is shown and what you see. The second work is different way of to infinity. It's a modular installation. This work, the artists explore geometry, specifically the sculptural potential of a complex polyhedron, the rhomboic dodecaedron, capable of making a three-dimensional tessellation of space. A question, do both installations combine or complement each other, or how? Is really intentional or not?
No, not at all. In fact, that's a very funny thing, because I really realize now that the exhibition is on that everyone is like seeing both installations as one, or very much connected. But in fact, it's funny because it's the only two works I have done around geometry, and seeing them together, it of course it makes sense because they are very close in a formal way. But in fact, the conceptual and the both works are very different in the the concept of the installations are very different. Chapter 1, the discovery, is in fact my first installation, new media art. It was my first personal work in 2009, I think. And Chapter 1, the discovery, as the title shows, is really a work about science fiction as a popular culture, movie, films, novels, and what I wanted to do is really to experiment with the passing of a filmographic experience, where the object is shown in different environments. You see this non-identified object in different places, and you always see him making the same animation of light, and he's like waiting for interaction, waiting for the humans to come. And in fact, when you arrive to the second space, because it's really an installation that you have to go from the first space to the second space, here is not perfectly, I mean, we couldn't really make this sequence very clear, but normally when I show it, you have a first space and you are obliged to arrive to the second space, and there is only one way to do it. Here is not the case, but normally it's this way, because it's really passing from the filmographic experience of this non-identified object to a physical and interactive experience with the object. It is in the second space you enter, and you see the object doing exactly the same light animation as in the film, but then when you go close to it, it starts to react to you. It has different sensors, and it reacts to the distance of the public to the object. And it's a very basic narration, a very basic, but I really wanted to experiment about this passing from the virtual and filmographic image to the physical interaction. And in fact, it's also an experience about alterity. So really try to conceive in the other. In this case, the other is a technological device, as a technological entity. And I really wanted to do it in a very, kind of mystical, but at the same time minimal way, and at the same time historical way, because the regular dodecahedron has a lot of mystical appearance in the old ages in philosophy. So it's a very mystical form in geometry, and I really wanted to, to really experiment with all these elements. So that's chapter 1, the discovery. Different Ways to Infinity is total different project. In fact, it's a project about the perceptions of science and where do science touch the metaphysics, the things that we can't really express or feel or perceive through very rational thinking. And in this, because all my projects, I work with a lot of different works that makes one project. So Different Ways to Infinity, there is a series of installations. I only show one here. Charles, as a curator, he choose different works. We talk about it and we make this choice. That's why now there is this new connection between these two works that never exist before, because we are showing them together for the first time, and now it is kind of, both are connecting. But Different Ways to Infinity is a project where I work around chaos theory, I work about gravitation, I work around geometry and volume in this work specifically. And basically, as you explained, I work with 10 units of 10 rhombic dodecahedrons that has a system with magnets. So for me, it's a way to, it's a generator of forms or sculptures. So basically with 10 units, I can, that's what you see in the video. There is a video where you see me manipulating the system. And the basic idea is that because rhombic polyhedron can make a tessellation of three-dimensional space, if I have a number of these units, I can combine them to make a very expressive system of sculptures and make a lot of forms. And that's what you see in the videos, making different forms. And in the exhibition space, I only show one form. The funny thing is that these two works are the only two works where I use geometry and sculpture. The rest of my work, I use plenty of other mediums or forms. I use robotics, mechatronics. I use a lot of different. But for the first time, they are shown together, and it's so. Chapter 1 is from 2009, and Different Ways to Infinity, I think, is from I don't remember now, but I think it's from 2015. So, it's a new.
Yes. Yes, science fiction, the object, like 2001, these new movies always about an object that is trying to tell us something. But talking about these two installations, explain or talk about the relation of the physical and metaphysical value here of lights, that you use the light, and as well the space and time. How do you use it, or which was your idea when you work with the light in the installation?
Yeah, in these two works is very simple, and in fact that's also what makes them very, very close, is that I use the same system of, let's say, communication. What I mean is that I use light and sound in these two installations as a flow of data. In fact, it's a representation of data. So there is basically a software that makes it's very musical also, because it uses techniques of random sequencing, which is used in music composition, and basically it makes random sequences where the tempo change, where there is a lot of parameters that change in time randomly, and in the case, so for me, I see it as a flow of data in the that you can perceive through the eyes and through the sound. That's basically the use of light. Also, of course, I always like this is more the case of chapter 1, the discovery. Is less the case of different ways to infinity. But also, I like how light sculptures interact with, or light objects interact with space. So there is always. I really like in chapter 1 how you see the space around you through the light emitted by this object. Then space change, and if you see the ceiling, there is this sequence of light that is because of the sequence of light of the object. The ceiling is I mean, there is a lot of factors, and also what I like in light sculptures, because I have done other light sculptures, and what I also like is that if you find the right space to show the work, the space really embodies the work and push it to another level. So
that's important. Always the space, because changes, the environment change the work of art a lot of times, or you have to adapt, or the work adapts maybe by itself. Thank you, Felix. I know we have time, questions, but because we can have a lot of content to talk about, maybe a little bit of talk between the artists, talking about all this very complex, interesting subjects. Let's talk about how artists are exploring critically, analytically, as well as speculatively also, the phenomenon of this machine mystical vision and the aesthetics of this mode, the mode of the machine, the perception of the machine.
Yes, I think that something which is very important is there is a philosopher, Manuela de Barros, who is speaking about, she has done a book about magic and technology. And in fact, nowadays, the technology is so complex that lots of people don't even understand anything on how it's working. And finally, they will finish to have the sensation that there is a spirituality in this machine. So when you were speaking about this machine can have spirituality, I would say maybe later we will have some spirituality in which the machine will be the gods and the magic beings. And I would just wanted to tell a story about that. Quite a long time ago, Descartes, you know, the mathematician and physicist, had on a book, Les Météores, he has explained how we can see rainbows when there are some drops of water and the light is entering, scattering inside the drops of water. So he explained everything and say, okay, I know how it's working and why we see rainbows. But after that, I really have the sentiment that he was like an artist, exactly as a contemporary artist, because he said, okay, no, I understand exactly how it's working, this rainbow, so I can imagine if I take some fluids with different optic index, I can't really make appear in the sky a very big cross. And all the people, they will think that it's an apparition of the god. So it's really because he understands something and he can use it, his knowledge, to make appear something that the other people don't understand. They even cannot imagine that somebody can do it, and that they really believe it's God that make this appear. And that's maybe a funny way of thinking it, is that finally we are making so complex machines that we will lose the understanding of this machine, and that maybe they will do something that will appear for us like spiritual magic. And because we need, as you said, Philip, we need to believe in something related to emotion. And
so what we need, what needs to happen that people began thinking or look at machines as a god, of gods? Yes.
to interact with the presentation of Philippe, I think with the animist vision, we maybe think again about our kingdoms. I think the problem of our relation with machines, it's the problem of human with other kingdoms, with others, and maybe it is Occidental or monotheism vision of humanity, that we think we are in the top of the pyramid, so with everything, we have a relation of consumer. So I did a project that I discovered the hypothesis of English climatologue James Lovelock. He proposed in the 70s the mathematical proposition Gaia hypothesis, in which he talked about the organs of the Earth, and in this hypothesis, he proposed that all the different part of the Earth ecosystem, like as a geological and atmosphere and biological parts, as a super organism, and it's they auto-regulate themselves with the biological life to with the aim that the life can continue persist. So there is a balance created between this organism, and when there is some perturbation, some problems, they can regulate it. But we can talk about the tipping point, that you have some clash, you can repair the system. So maybe if we think our machine as like as and minerals as like as other kingdoms in this planet, and we think about the question of interconnections, the link, because the real question is if machines and human activities are in the ecosystem, in a system, in interconnection, interconnective way with each other, so we can coexist, we can continue, and everything have every system has its place. So maybe we should think about all this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carlos. Do you have any questions? ¿Tenéis preguntas, dudas, algo que queráis compartir?
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So I would like to challenge the idea that we actually need to step away from using that much technology. And actually, I think we should use even more technology, because if we want to actually continue evolving as human beings, we are actually going to need to get to a stage where we can develop sentient AI machines, even create that mix of organic machines. And then once we are able to actually have those kind of systems that become ecosystems, then there's going to be some kind of symbiosis between humans and organic machines. And to get to that stage, we actually need to use even more technology. So what do you think of that?
Interesting. Thank you very much.
I can answer to that. I mean, techniques in general are this fact of taking functions we have inside of us and to transform it in mechanical tools or cognitive tools. We live like 2 centuries of mechanical acceleration, and we are initiating a new acceleration today on the cognitive part. I think we haven't been able to really understand and control what we have been doing on the mechanical part. I mean, really not. We are the war in Ukraine today, it's been 1 month, is really questioning Europe on its energy issues. And it's questioning Europe on its energy issues because of the war, but Europe should have been reflecting on its energy, architecture before the war. And of course, I use technology, and it's not really the point. We are humans because we are a technical being, and that's part of us. And I hate this fake debates we have on machines and man. What will happen? This is nonsense. This is nonsense. There's a Polish robot here exhibited. The story started because of that nonsense. I mean, we are in a time frame where we believe machines will have and will threaten us, like science fiction is telling us for a long time. And I think it really don't drive us to the good questions, because this is really an old myth. This is the myth of the creator escaping its own creator, and this also questions our place as humans, where we put us. We reflect our place on earth as gods, and we should land a bit more and have our 2 feet on the ground to understand what our place is. The question to me is really today, what do we want to automate? What we don't want to automate? And you were talking about nanotechnologies that, okay, we are able today to inject, let's say, program biology a bit. Yeah, cool, but what are the consequences of that? I don't know. I mean, things are getting faster and faster, and we still haven't cleaned up the ground after these 2 centuries of mechanical externalization. And so that's why I find it so important to, pause, let's reflect on that. What have we been doing with technology? What do we want to do? What should we keep for us? Should we keep some work to do? Or do we want to be lazy lads around? What's the point? We should discuss about that today, because we are heading to that.
So we can agree with his point of view that machines, we need more technology, but for what? Because technology is our creation. It's not something that begins like a phylogenetic creation. Maybe someday we'll begin machines to create themselves, but now we have to create. So for what we want to create more machines? To create this God that we don't have anymore. We kill God some time ago, as Nietzsche said, and we are alone with the machines, alone with technology. We're creating somebody equal, or something equal to us, because we want to reflect, because the reflection on other humans is not enough for us. We need something more. We need a God. God may be in a form of a machine. Maybe it will come. I think it's very possible. We create a great machine, a great God machine, quantum or post-quantum machine, that will guide us, but not interacting as a slave. Anybody will be a slave. There's a chance that we can be a slave of the machine. But the idea is really this what we want, and we know what we want from machines. I think.
And what's the man behind the machine?
Yeah.
That's also a good question. I mean,
Yes.
That's the debate I was pointing out. Like, okay, let's not too much anthropomorphize machines. If you try to build up a conflict between man and machine, what's the point? I mean, who owns the machine? Who programs it? What are the biases in the system? What is the data used? Who chose the data? Those are the questions that we need to zoom in to discuss about technology.
I think today we will not discover our future. We will not give an answer to this. It's great, and we can stay here hours and hours debating with food and drinks. But maybe another time, next times, next exhibitions. The question, the more important is to put a question, a question on all our minds, and go home, any place we go now, and think about what these guys, these girls, these artists talk about, and what we, or this, all these words made, which influence they made in you, if they made some influence, or when you saw all these installations change your mind. This is the interesting point. What you saw, what we see, that's how we are going to see that. I'm going to the beginning as I began, no? Really, we see when we are seeing or not. And this is a question we must point when we go to installations and exhibitions. Sometimes we pass and we don't see anything. So reflect on this. Theory is very important, but also the action of the work of art in art. Any other question? Any other something? Yes. Microphone, please. Oh, so yes.
Yeah, after.
Yes.
It's a simple question. Can be a machine a creator for itself with superintelligence, for example, of Nick Bostrom?
Of what?
Thank you.
If a machine can be a creator by
Nick Bostrom write about superintelligence of the machines in future singularity, and can be a machine a creator for itself?
Yes, like intelligent. If a machine can create something for itself,
but with a superintelligence, an intelligence more powerful than the human.
But
it's difficult to say more powerful or not, because it's difficult to evaluate intelligence. We see our intelligence, but there are other forms of intelligence which can be said even better than our intelligence, maybe more efficient in emotional things, or we don't know all the intelligence of all the animals, I'm sure. So, well, it's difficult to say more intelligent. Difficult what we mean by this, in fact.
Yeah.
Maybe.
To answer that, maybe we need to look at the state of the art in artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say artificial intelligence, 95% of the cases we are talking about narrow intelligences, like playing Go, like seeing what's your emotion, what's the face, what's the emotion you are mimicking, expressing with your face. All are very narrow intelligences. And actually, the most advanced researcher on artificial intelligence, they managed to build systems that can find by their own new solutions to a problem. Like there's something in a box, you have some agents around it, and you don't teach anything to the agents, but somehow the agents will find a way to I don't know, reverse the box and enter in. That's an example. And in those cases, the system was designed to find a solution by itself, but we don't know really how it does that. And like Yann Lequin, which is the responsible for artificial intelligence at Facebook, is one of the most advanced researcher, and he knows. He's also always saying that he knows that he don't know. And I find it an interesting way to put it, because we are at the beginning of something. In fact, we must realize that this technology we step into as artists and as citizens is very, very new. It's new material we have in our hands. And so to answer your question about super intelligence, I would say that we need to be the one that get more intelligent to understand what's around us, and it's a very complex thing, like to externalize a cognitive function. We don't even know how our brain works. We have imagery of that. We have imagery of, okay, this is the zone where language processes, and this is the zone of memory. But we are in the beginning of also a new scientific adventure cognitively. So maybe this knowledge in the neurocognitive part will help us understand what is cognition. And once we know what cognition is, we can maybe put out some models to people interact with.
And
Thank you so much.
And the other point is the machines, how the machine will engage with new epistemic practices. That's important. The knowledge. You're talking intelligent, yes, but how the machine will gain this epistemic knowledge. This is something related more to humans. I think machines will never be autonomous if they don't have the organic part. If they still are what they are, still sand and not organic things or minerals, it's very difficult for that. So that's very, very long step, or not. Some Golnaz, you want to finish?
Yeah,
you want to say something?
I wanted to say, in link with your question, I think we can say that the machines are come from nature because in some way the human brain is the biggest creation of the nature, which permit the invention, the imagination, that it's normal that human being creates machines. So for me, it's not, the problem is not machines. It's just with which voluntary and aims we created it. If in our contemporary society, the problem is we think everything with the profit economic research, and this is a problem. I think if we change our vision, the problem is not about machines. We accelerate because we search profit at first, but if we are in a good relation between human societies and planet, I think the machine is their place is just natural. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dominique, Golnaz, Philippe, Felix. Thank you, public, for your attention, the audience. We must leave. People are telling me we have to finish. Hope you enjoy, you understand, clarified in some way. And I want to finish with something important use that we think maybe not a minute of silence for the war in Ukraine. for the people in Ukraine, and maybe if you can help through machines, because we can donate money for them. So now it's an important subject that's happening, and we don't have to forget art is very important. Maybe change words, but there is a war. We have a war on our door. So only for that, don't forget about what is happening in life, because technology is very absorbent and machines absorb us. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, and it's a pleasure. And hope to see you next round tables with other artists.
Thank you.
We'll be in Spanish.
Thank you very much.